Shalom, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, right, who the world really calls God. And I do so in the name of his son, Yahweh Shai, who the world really calls Jesus Christ. Shalom to all of the brothers that go out there and labor, right, in the zero below codes, 100-degree weathers, right, in season, out of season, right, prophesying the downfall of this wicked world, Babylon, man. This wicked Babylon, man. Right? Shalom to all of the children, right, and to all of the women of Israel that's married, right, that's reverencing their husbands, being a teacher of good things to the children at home. Shalom to all of the sisters that's not married as of yet, but they're being holy in body, right, and worshiping the Most High. Shalom to all of the youth out there, right? That's being steadfast and staying away from the concupiscences of this world. And it's gonna be a lesson going into the $5 Indian, man. Going into the $5 Indian, right? What does this term mean? Why is this what is this going into? What does it mean? I mean, we all have an idea in the sense of what a $5 Indian is, but let's get a little deeper understanding, right, about what the $5 Indian is and who they are, right? So, give you a brief explanation of, right, what it is through the spirit, because in the late, so this is like some history. I haven't been on here for a while on StreamYard, so bear with me when I go to show you these documents and stuff like that. But nevertheless, in the late 1800s, right? The late 1800s, early 1900s, the U.S. government created the Dawes Roll, right, under the Act of 1887, right? It divided Native American land into individual plots, right? That those, that divided the land, they got those land allotments. But Esau crafty, a lot of them they snuck up in that thing. People bribed and paid $5 to be fraudulently added to those rolls so they could get land allotments and legal native status, so they could get the rights and the identity that came with that stuff, that came with the Dawes Roll for the Indians, right? But real quick, let me get this precept. The book. Open up with the book of Micah. Right fast. I'm gonna do a little bit of reading on some on a historical document. I would like to show Yasha Allah, Lord willing, through the Spirit. Book of Micah. It's the book of Micah, chapter 2 and verse number 1, and it reads, it said, "Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds," right? "When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage," right? So, Shalom, King, Shalom. All praise to the Most High, right? Right? So it says they covet fields. Hey, Esau, when they came over here, right, on them boats, right, they saw the Northern Kingdom, whether it was Issachar, the Aztecs, whether it was Zebulon, right, the Mayans, whether it was Asher, the Incas, right? When they came to North America, and they saw Gad, right, the tribe of Gad, Northern Kingdom, right? And they plotted on their fields. They plotted on their fields, right? They plotted on their, like I said, they coveted it. They coveted the fields, and they was looking at the fields like, yeah, this is going to be some good land for us to plunder, right? To pillage, to take, right? Because that's what they do in their beds. They think about expanding their wicked, evil kingdom. So they plot on these lands and they covered after them. They say that, oh, the Native Americans, so-called Native Americans, and these Indian savages, they don't know what to do with this land. So they kill them. They rob them, right? They put all manners of diseases, right? Because they say that these people weren't going like that, right? Northern Kingdom wasn't going like that. They was fighting for their heritage, right? They was fighting for their homes, right? And it was kind of like it was whooping Esau. So Esau couldn't stand toe to toe with him. So he had to daggone get crafty, right? Let me get this other precept in the book of Job. Slocky, I got my glasses. It's the book of Job, right? It's the book of Job, chapter 24, and verse. I'm gonna start at verse 2. It says, "Some remove the landmarks; they violently take away flocks and feed thereof. They drive away the ass of the fatherless. They take the widow's ox for a pledge. They turn the needy out of the way. The poor of the earth hide themselves together." Right? So it said, hey, it says some remove the landmarks, man. They remove the landmarks. They remove, right, the landmarks, and they violently take away flocks, like they did the Gadites, man. They came over here. They violently took away, right, the landmarks, right, things that showed that, okay, this is my tribe. These are my people. They knocked down the teepees, right? They came in. Utterly destroyed their land, right? Destroyed everything that the Gadite tribes it just took away their insignia or what landmass was theirs and what tribe was theirs, right? Because the Gadites, you know what I'm saying, the native so-called Native Americans, they were over here and they had land, they had plots or land allotments to their specific tribes, and certain tribes they wore certain clothes and had certain insignias to show what tribe, right, they were, right, and they took away those landmarks, right, and they violently took away flocks, man. Came here, killed all of the buffalo, you know what I'm saying? They shot down all the deers, right, cutting down the trees, right. They're gonna just taking things by violence. Because that's all Esau knows. Esau get mad. Esau wants something. Hey, he coming by force. He's not asking you nice. He come with a slithering tongue like he want to help, but really, right? He really trying to take you out, man. Right? As a matter of fact, let me get that precept. I think that's the Psalms. Right quick. All right. So let's go to the book of Psalms, chapter. Excuse me. Let's go to Psalms, chapter. Oh, that's what I want. Yep. Psalm chapter 55, verse 20. It said, "He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him." Right? He hath broken his covenant. Right? So what we about to go into, right? We about to show I'm gonna show you all through the spirit, a source, a historical source, right, about how these treaties, all of these treaties that were made, right, these treaties and these laws and promises, right, you know what I'm saying, that was made by Esau to the Gadites, right, these things were broken. These treaties were abolished, right? You know what I'm saying? And these things were broken. Like it said, and he put forth his hand and such to be at peace with him. Hey, Gadites was trying to be at peace with Esau, right? Which, hey, hey, if you understand, if you know Gadites, right, they were peaceful people. They are laid back people. They, they're real hospitable, right? And Esau seen this and took advantage of that, right? Because they're wicked, right? So it says, verse 21, it said, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, right? They came over here, right, in the name of Caesar Borgia, saying that they're going to civilize the land, right, and promise new things and new innovations to cultivate, you know what I'm saying, the land for the Gadites, right? So their words were smoother than butter, but if you read in Christopher Columbus's letter, right, how he said about the Arawaks, even the Tainos, right, they had that same notion when they saw the Gadites. And these people, they kind of like hospitable. They'll make good slaves, right? They'll make good slaves. That's how Esau think, right? You can't. Let me get that right fast. Slocky, I'm not gonna get too many precepts. Let me not jump the gun. But nevertheless, it said the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they drawn swords, man. Right? Because when Gad told y'all, like, told Esau, hey, we're not selling this land. We don't got this land. This is our land. We're not giving it to you, right? Hey, they say, all right, we ain't gonna give it to us, then we're gonna take it then. Right? You don't want us to settle here. All right, we're gonna settle here by force, right? You know, say then they came over here with that boat, right, and killed damn millions of the Pequot, man, thousands of the Pequot, right? Spread a plague on North America, hey, wiping out daggone half the daggone tribes of Native Americans, man. Wiped out over half. You know what I'm saying? Wiped out over half of them. You know what I'm saying? Hey, with the plague that they sent, right? But nevertheless, yeah, let me go. Let's go to this source right quick. Read something to you through the spirit, right? Share my screen. I can read along through the spirit, Lord willing. All right. Whoever's watching, let me know if you get see the screen. Give me a strong con if you can see my screen. Shalom, King. Shalom. All right. Good brothers, can y'all see my screen through the spirit? Give me a strong con. Con, all praise to the Most High. Right. So this is the book of, let me see. It's called, excuse me, Slovakia. I'm trying to get to this. Where it go? There it go. It's called and still the waters run. That's what it's called. And still the waters run. What's going on here? Hold on. Slovakia. And still the waters run. We get back. Satan. All right. Let's get back to that page that I was on. All right. Still the Waters Run. That's what this book is called. It's by a woman. I believe she's a Edomite, but how she writes, I wouldn't. I mean, outward perception of her, she may seem like an Edomite, probably because of the five so-called civilized tribes mixing with the so-called white man, right? So her outward perception may seem like an Edomite, but how she writes and talks about these people, about the wicked heathen Esau, chiefly the so-called white man, right? I think she might be a Gadite, Northern Kingdom, but we will know when the Lord come back. But nevertheless, let's get to this point that I wanted to read. I want to read this passage from her. Her name is Angie Debo, right? So it says, this is page 20 of and Still the Waters Run by Angie Debo. Y'all can look this up on the website archive.org, or you can just buy the book, Lord willing. But nevertheless, it says, start reading from right here. It says, from the removal of the Indians, from the removal of the Indians have been confronted with these proposals. The treaty signed at the close of the Civil War contained optional provisions for allotment and territorial organization, and during the following generation, Congress had deluged with bills for the forcible abolition of the tribal tenure, right? So this is talking about these treaties that were signed. Was the Dawes Roll, was the Dawes Act, was the Dawes Act of 1887, where the United States, right, started to give allotments after they had colonized, right, certain tribes, right, and they called them the five civilized tribes, which was the Cherokee, Choctaw, the Creek, or what they call Muskogee. It was the Cherokee, Choctaw, uh, the Muskogee or Creek, the Seminoles, and what's the last one? I think. Hold up, Salakia. I gotta get that right here, right fast. The Cherokees, Salakia. It was the Chickasaws. That's what it was. The Chickasaws. That's what it was. So it was the five civilized tribes. What they called was the Cherokee, the Choctaw, the Muskogee, or what they call Creek, the Chickasaw, and the Seminole tribes, right? So these are the five civilized tribes, right? And the Dawes Act of 1887, which got land allotments, right? And they made treaties on what land they would have, where it would be at, and stuff like that, right? And this what this is right here. We could read about that, but I don't want to read too much. It's you could go to this website to check this out. It's called the Kapler's State Library, right? Or Digital Collections. It's OK State Library, Oklahoma State. Nevertheless, we keep reading on. Salakia. It says, for the date of the removal of the Indians had been confronted with these proposals. These treaties signed at the close of the Civil War contained optional provisions for allotment for territorial organization, and during the following generation, Congress had been deluged with bills for the forcible abolition of tribal tenure. By the opening of Oklahoma in 1889, the creation of its territorial government, right, a year later, a new lusty voice added to the popular clamor although the Indians managed to defeat this legislation through the extraordinary diplomatic skill and legal ability of their leaders and the determined opposition of their entire citizenship, it became apparent by 1890 that the treaties would not be allowed much longer to block the path of progress. So this is going into what it was talking about in the book of Psalms, right? The book of Psalms chapter 55 and verse number 20. How they broke their covenants, man. They broken these covenants. These treaties are covenants. You know what I'm saying? Agreements, right? That Gad agreed to with so-called white man. That's why the Lord said, hey, never trust thine enemy, man. Right? And this is what Gad messed up at, right? Trusting the so-called white man. Right? It said the Indian office opposed in principle the communal land tenure and the Union agents, with the single exception of Robert L. Owen, a Virginian of Cherokee descent, right, who had been admitted to tribal citizenship. See, this admitted to tribal citizenship, meaning hey, he bought his way in, right? Or he was a citizen by merit. He became a citizen by he married in. You could marry in or buy your citizenship, right? That's what they did, but he more likely he bought in because he's admitted to tribal citizenship, filled their annual reports with condemnation of the system. For a time, the Indian office depended upon persuasion, right? But in 1886, the Commissioner of Indian Affairs recommended the forcible allotment of a quarter section to each citizen of the purchase of the remainder for white settlement. See that? It said the purchase, right, of the remainder of that quarter section, a for white settlement, right? So Esau was able to purchase land allotments, right, in 1886. This is right before the Dawes Act of 1887. This is a year before that. So it said in 1890, the special census bulletin for the Indian Territory departed from its uh, statistical impartiality, Salakia, to advocate a similar policy, right? So we keep reading. It says, at the same time, Eastern philanthropic friends of the Indians added their dignified voices to the clamor of turbulent frontiersmen, right? For some time, these theorists had professed an almost mystical faith in value of private ownership and its power to transform the nature of any Indian who could be persuaded or forced to accept it, right? So a lot of Gadites, you know what I'm saying, hey, they were getting down with the so-called white man's hey, with his daggone, like I said, his mystical faith in the value, right? They wanted to get down with it, right? It said the board of Indian commissioners, and I ain't gonna say it was all Gadites, it was more likely white men, because it said philanthropic friends, right? The eat at the time at the same time Eastern, right? Philanthropic friends, right? Of the Indians, philanthropic friends. They're philanthropists. These people going around spreading money, throwing money around. You know that's Esau. Because hey, before Esau even came around, hey, Gad wasn't really caring about no dang on money. He was all into barter systems and you know what I'm saying and stuff like that. So that philanthropy, that's definitely talking about the so-called white man, right? And those so-called Native Americans that got down, right, with that. right? Because it says, the Board of Indian Commissioners was created in 1869. It was supposed to be made up of distinguished philanthropists who were served without pay, whose reports would operate as a check upon vicious legislation or administration. After a year of study, this board made its first report recommending as a general Indian policy allotment with restrictions on alienation of the land, and specifically that members of the five tribes should be made United States citizens and taxed as soon as possible, right? And it says, from that time on, the board commonly regarded the extent of allotment as the measure of progress in Indian advancement. So when they made these five tribes, right, the five tribes that's named, which was the Cherokee, the Dagon Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Dagon Creek or the Muskogees, and the Seminole Indians, that gave the United States the okay to weed themselves in and to get to buy themselves in because they made these five tribes United States citizens to buy themselves in. That's why you see a lot of white people go around saying, "Oh, I'm Chickasaw, or I'm Choctaw, or I'm Creek, or all these things." They can't say Seminole because they know most of the Seminoles were freedmen, and these freedmen were people who were free or Negro slaves who got freed from one of the five tribes, and I'm gonna show you that too within the same book, right? So they got down with that, you know what I'm saying? That's how they was able to, weed themselves in, right? And become a so-called Native American. What they call to try to always he used to always try to say, "Oh, I'm a Native American." Oh no, you're not. You're not a Native American. You're not a you're not a daggone so-called you're not a Gadite, man. They always be trying to get into that thing, right? But nevertheless, reading on. It said in 1883, a small group of Eastern humanitarians began to meet annually at Lake Mohawk, right, where with an agreeable background of natural beauty, congenial companionship, and crusading motive, they discussed the Indian problem. At their third meeting, Senator Henry L. Dawes, right? This is where it's coming into, of Massachusetts, a distinguished Indian theorist, gave a glowing description of a visit of inspection. He said he had recently made the Indian Territory. The most partisan Indian will hardly have painted such an idealized picture of his people's happiness and prosperity and culture. But illogically, the senator advocated a change in this perfect society because it held the wrong principle of property ownership. Speaking apparently of the Cherokees, he said, the head chief told us that there was not a family in that whole nation that had not a home of its own. There was not a pauper in that nation, and the nation did not owe a dollar. It built its own capital in which he had this examination, and it built its schools and its hospitals and so like it and its hospitals. Yet the defeat, it's like it said, yet the defect of the system was apparent. Said they have got said they have got as far as they can go because they own their land in common. It is it is Henry George's system. And under that, there is no enterprise to make your home any better than that of your neighbors. There is no selfishness, which is at the bottom of civilization. It said, till this people consent to give up their lands and divide them among their citizens so that each can own the land he cultivates, on the land he cultivates, they will not make much more progress. So this right here is when the land allotments, right? As I'm gonna continue to read, right? But this part right here is talking about, saying, hey, what that Edomite said, man, right? These Cherokee people, they own their own lands, they do their own thing, hey, but they ain't gonna progress unless they give us some, right? They ain't gonna progress unless they let us get a piece, right? Because what Esau gonna do, right? They're gonna do you like a damn they're gonna smother you out. They're gonna smother you. Either you're gonna get down or they're gonna squeeze it out of you to get down. And Gad wasn't coming against the so-called white man. They could try and fight all they want to. Many of Gadites died fighting for their land, fighting for their freedom, right? Fighting for their land, fighting against the oppressors that came, right? Died from sickness. Hey, but some of them got down with that, man, because it was too much for them to bear to try to fight against them. They wasn't trying to have no more casualties, right? It says the conference accepted this viewpoint and continued to advocate reform, right, with all the earnestness of a moral crusade. See that? Like Senator Dawes, the members based their opposition purely upon theoretical belief in the sanctity of private ownership, rather than upon any understanding of the Indian nature or any investigation of actual conditions. They didn't even know that they was living bad or not. They didn't even care to look into it. They just wanted the land. That's what they went off. You know what I'm saying? Private ownership. I want that for me, right? With regard to Indians in general, their program in 1903 comprised the abolition of the Indian Bureau and all Indian agencies and the extension of state authority over all Indian tribes. It said the extinction of tribal governments and the granting of full United States citizenship with its privileges and obligations, and the division of the communal holdings among the individual Indians to be held under the same conditions of taxation and freedom to alienate as the white man's farm, right? So, you know what I'm saying? In this book, oh, and also right here, Salakia, had to go back up here, Salakia, to show you that, you know what I'm saying, a lot of these people, right, even Gad, you know what I'm saying, hey, Lord willing, the Most High forgive them, you know what I'm saying, but some of them got down with that slavery, man. Some of them got down with that slavery. Yeah, some of them got down with that, man. Let me get this right quick. On page number 4. Come on now, this thing. Right. Salakia. Yeah, see, so a lot of these, you know what I'm saying, they called when Henry L. Dawes came in there, man. He came with Esau came with the idea, man, like it said in Psalms 55 and verse number 21. It said the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, right? Came in there with their treaties and their promises and all these other things, right? Hey, but they were drawing swords, man. Right? War was in their heart, man. They came with a so-called moral crusade, right? And came in, hey, hey, if you gonna give us this land, or we gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? This land belongs to the United States. When they made them so-called United States citizens, they agreed to become slaves, man. They agreed to being taxed, right? They agreed to they're gonna give up their land. Their land became the so-called white man's, right? But nevertheless, I wanted to bring out this part right here. It says when the United States succeeded to European colonial influence in the Gulf region, the new government followed a custom established by its predecessors of making alliances and treaties with the Indian tribes. But from 1800 on, a new problem arose through the encroachments of its advancing settlements. One important result of this closer intercourse was the rapidity which the Indians, especially the Cherokees and Choctaws, man, began to adopt the white man's institution. Right? You see that? It said especially the Cherokees and Choctaws, the same tribes that Esau, chiefly the white man, tried to say that he's from. If you say I'm a Native American, he's going to say either he's Cherokee or he's Choctaw. He's going to try to say that. He can't say he Blackfoot. He won't say it. He's damn sure not going to say no, he's a Seminole Indian. He would never say that. But he will try to hit you with the arm Apache. Sometimes you might catch a little few. You might try to be crafty. I'm Apache. Oh, I'm Shoshone. No, damn well the Shoshone got wiped out. Oh, I'm Navajo. You might catch a few every now, but mostly all Edomites gonna say, oh, I'm Cherokee or I'm Choctaw. Right? It said they invited Christian. Look, it said they invited Christian missionaries to their country and established churches and schools, and they adopted constitutions, right, and legal codes, and some of their leaders began to operate plantations, which was who was worked by Negro slaves, right? So they got down with that, man. They got down with the slavery, the Cherokees and the Choctaws, right? And it said the progress of the Cherokees was especially rapid at this time because the Sequoia, right, one of the greatest geniuses ever produced by any race, invented a phonetic alphabet that enabled the whole tribe to become within a few months a literate people. But nevertheless, you know what I'm saying, the Cherokees, so-called, right, the Gadites, right, really these integrated, you know what I'm saying, these integrated Gadites, right, they got down with the slavery, man, right? Always claim, yeah, for $5 is crazy, man, right? But let me get this right quick in the book of Psalms, right? Give me I get this screen off of here. Let me see. Okay, come on. So yeah. It's the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 83. Right, I'm gonna start at verse 3. It said, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. All of these things, right? These treaties right here, all of these damn treaties, right? I don't know if y'all can see them, right? Oh, so like, let me share my screen again, so y'all can see all these damn treaties, man, that they created with our people, with the native, so-called Native Americans, man, right? See, Esau don't want you to see this website. That's why they put this big fat daggone search bar right here. It don't even need to be that daggone big. But like all of these treaties, all of the Shoshone Northwestern bands, Ned with the Nez Perez, the other Gadites, so-called Nez Perces, the Yakima, like all of these treaties that they created, right? They came with these crafty with the Creeks, the Mohawk, Chickasaw, Choctaw Creeks, the Seneca tribe developed. Look at all these treaties, man. All of these treaties that they created, right? They was taking crafty counsel, right? Shalom, brother Haza. To Wabawaka, right? All praise to the Most High. It said they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones, all of the philanthropists from the east, right? All of the daggone Henry L. Dawes, right, and his United States buddies, daggone demons, right, devils, right? They consulted against the hidden ones, man, right? It said they have said, "Come and let us cut them off from being a nation," right? They didn't want they didn't want the Gadites to be a nation no more, right? They didn't want the Gadites to have this land, right? They didn't want the Gadites, right, to be their own nation. Instead, they wanted to buy in it. Let me buy it for $5. Let me be a Cherokee. Yeah, yeah. I'm a Cherokee for $5 so I can get some of that land that y'all got. Yeah, let me marry in, right? Got the nasty Edomite devil wench, right? Wanting to marry a daggone Israelite man, a Northern Kingdom man, right? You know what I'm saying? And who's a warrior, and who's strong, right? Who's not weak and meek like the so-called white man, right? I ain't gonna say meek, because he ain't meek at all. He's just weak and stinky, man, right? And I'm gonna put his sweaty $5 bill with a daggone so-called white man on it, right? To give to our people, man, right? So they could get some of the daggone the land, right? Say, oh, I ain't gotta move. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Native American. Look at my tribal card. I got it in Oklahoma. My grandfather, my great grandfather, he was on the Dawes. He's on the Dawes Act of 1887. Check my lineage. Man, you bought into that, man. You not no Gadite. You don't come from the 12 tribes of Israel. You're not coming from the seed line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are but an Edomite. All of you Edomites that try to say, you so-called white people that try to say you're a Native American, you're not. You're not a Cherokee. You're not a Chickasaw. You're not a Choctaw. You're not a Creek or Muskogee. You're not a Seminole. You're a white man. You're an Edomite. And you can't be in your crafty counsel ain't gonna stand, right? It said, I'm gonna read verse 4 again. It said, they have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Right? And a lot of the Gadites over here, they were still speaking in Hebrew, right? That's that phonetic language. That phonetic language that they came up with the alphabet. It was the Hebrew words, the Hebrew characters. Right? It's still praise songs that they play certain I forget the tribe. It's like it's slipping me. But they were saying Yahweh. They were saying Yahweh, man. Right? Salakia. Salakia. Yeah, Khan. Had to turn my alarm off. Let's go to the book of Isaiah right quick. Get a few more, close out. It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 10, and verse number 1. It said, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, that write grievousness which they have prescribed, to turn aside the needy from judgment, and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey, and that they may rob the fatherless, man. The Lord said, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, man. Right? Right. Yeah, the Tainos are the Taino Indians are those are Puerto Ricans, right? They are the Puerto Rican people, tribe of Ephraim, right? You know what I'm saying? And some the Taino, yeah, they are the Puerto Ricans. But it said, woe to them that decree unrighteous decrees, right? That write grievousness which they have prescribed. These treaties were unrighteous decrees, right? They knew deep down once they got the Northern Kingdom to agree to these treaties that guess what? They will wage war against them, right? And take their land, right? That's why I said to turn aside the needy from judgment, right? And to take away the right from the poor, right? And it says that the widows may be their prey. And the widows were their prey. After they done killed all the fathers, guess what they did to say that they're Native Americans or to marry into the tribes, right? They will go and get a white woman. They would go and get a Gadite woman, right? And lay down with her and have babies with her, producing, right, these daggone Edomite children that look like they got a little hint of Gad in them, right? The Kiowa tribe, that's where it was, right? They were singing, they were still saying Yahweh, man, right? The water, right? But yeah, it said to turn aside it said to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey. Now that right that they took away from the poor of my people, they had the land. That was their right. This whole North American plain was the land of the Gadites, right? It was the Northern Kingdom's land, right? Gad and Salaki Gad and who was that? Reuben, right? Daggone even parts of Issachar, man, right? You know what I'm saying? These was the Northern Kingdom's land, right? This was their right. But they took away the right from the poor of the Lord's people, right? And made the widows, right, their prey, raping the women, making them have monsters, man. These daggone monster Edomites, man. These deceitful Edomites trying to look like they're trying to look like they Gad when they really Esau, right? And it said, hey, and they robbed the fatherless, man. They took away the inheritance of the sons that was left behind of the fathers of these tribes, man, right? Killing the chiefs, killing them, killing the leaders, right? Killing them, right? The Lord said, woe to them, man, right? Let me get this other precept. Right? All that stuff that we just read, and that's what that's talking about, man. Hey, these wicked treaties, man. Right? Let me get this other precept in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. Two and Slakia. I think I passed it. I was in Haggai, tripping. Salakia. This is the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, and verse number 9. It said, woe to him that covereth an evil. It's like it said, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, right? That he may that he may be delivered from the evil, from the power of evil, right? It says, thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people, and has sinned against thy soul, right? For the stone shall cry of the wall, and the beam out of the timber shall answer it. Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, establish a city by iniquity. So it says, woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness, to set his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. So this is talking about them Gadites, man, right? They try to put themselves on high above all these above other nations, even enslaving their own people, right? So they could be saved from the power of the evil, which is the so-called white man, right? They try to save themselves, right? And it said, thou hast consulted shame to thy house. And that's a shameful thing, right? Got these other tribes, right? Because if you read into some of these treaties, right, the United States protected these 5 civilized tribes from the other tribes of Gad in the Northern Kingdom, right? From taking them out for being traitors, man, for selling out, right? It said thou hast consulted shame to thy house by cutting off many people. And they cut off the rest of the Northern Kingdom, man, so they could be protected from the power of the evil, man, right? The wicked Esau, right? So they brought shame upon their house for cutting off the people, right? It said, for the stone shall cry out of the wall, right? And the beam out of the timber, right, shall answer it. So it said, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establish a city by iniquity. And it's a sin to put your own people into slavery, right? They bend to the will of the so-called white man, even started opening up, even operating plantations, which was ran by the Negroes, the so-called Negroes, the Israelites, us, right? Southern Kingdom, right? Right? Southern Kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? Let me get a few more. I'm gonna close up. Let me get this other one. A few closing precepts. But yeah, man, as we read into that book, the name of that book is called, right, The Still Waters Run by Angie Debo. Debo, right? Angie Debo, right? Look that book up. It's it's a very detailed book on history, right? Let me get this in the book of Ecclesiastes, right? Chapter 5. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5 and verse 8. It said, if thou seest the oppression of the poor, right, and violent perverting of judgment, and justice in a province, marvel not at the matter. For he that is higher than the highest regardeth, and there be higher than they, right? So look, when we see the oppression of the poor, right? They don't be surprised, right? Right? For the Most High God, right? He's higher than them, right? And he's going to destroy them, right? And these people, you Gadites, right? That came from that. Hey, we gotta repent for our forefathers for what they done, right? We gotta ask for forgiveness for them, that the Lord have mercy on them, because they didn't know what the heck they did, right? By enslaving their people, by conforming to the ways of the so-called white man, Esau, right? Enslaving his own people, right? Oppressing your own people, right? And then Esau oppressing them. They already got their judgment set in stone, right? Because their violence will be recompensed upon them, right? Thus saith Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Let me get this other precept right quick in the book of Obadiah, chapter 1. Obadiah, verse number 10. It said, "For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame covered thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever." Right? Hey, so you Gadites, right? You Northern Kingdom, right? Gadites or so-called Native Americans, right? You say you so-called white men, you can't. Hey, ain't no buying into a bloodline, man. Hey, either you chosen or you're not, right? You can't call yourself a $5 Indian because we know, I said, excuse me. You can't call yourself a Native American because we know you bought into it, right? There's too many documents out here to show you, right? Like this one of them right here, one last document, Salakia. This is the list. Let me get this. Let me share this screen, Salakia. One last time. Let me share this screen so I can show y'all this. This is a list of the Choctaws by marriage, man. And it's just one of the lists. Right? Columbus, Adkins, John A. Right? All of these people, right? Hey, married in to the Choctaw tribe. Married in. That's how they became daggone that's how they well, according to the five civilized tribes, that's how they allowed the so-called white man, right, to be a part of their tribes. You can even look at it in Pocahontas, right? That's an example in that movie, right? When Pocahontas married the daggone white man, they came to pillage her city, right? And this is another way right here. It talks about a blood quantum, freedmen, intermarried, and adopted citizens. It's talking about some tribal associations. Excuse me. So let me zoom back out. I don't know how I just did that. Okay, Con. It says tribal associations are listed as by blood, intermarriage, or freedmen. Right? Intermarriage means the person was married to a citizen of the tribe, right? You may also see IW for intermarried white or A for adopted, right? It says freedmen are individuals who are formerly enslaved by members of one of the five tribes. The term is also described their descendants. Although there was intermarriage between freedmen and Native Americans, the Dawes Commission typically enrolled people of mixed heritage, right, as freedmen and indicated no blood relation to the tribe. Freedmen cards also include slave of, father's owner, and mother's owner, right? So that's what makes you these are the different types of ways that they try to, the different labels that comes with being a freedman. You a Native American by blood or intermarriage, or you a freedman. And most of the freedmen's, right, they came from one of them five civilized tribes of slaves, and most of them, hey, they went to the Seminole Indians, right? But nevertheless, this was a quick exposure of what a $5 Indian is, right? It's a white man, right, that paid on Dawes Road, on Dawes Act of 1887, right, to get the allotment of land and resources, right, under a tribe of one of the five civilized tribes of Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, right, or they called them the Muskogee and Seminole people. But Lord willing, right, you all were edified. You have a understanding now, right? And Lord willing, y'all take that book, right? You purchase it, or you get your notes from it, and Lord willing, You know, y'all be edified through the Spirit, and now you have a understanding, a little bit more understanding about what a $5 Indian is. So all of you brothers that go out there and labor, and Esau tries to tell you that he's a so-called Native American, right? Hey, pull out that book, pull out these documents that you see on this video, right, and prove it through the Spirit, right? But with that, give all glory and honor to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach, Amalak Yahweh Shai, Kwam Yashala, Shalom.